Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's session. My name is Mario Gomez. I'm part of the CAT team at eSource Capital. With me is Karel Munoz, and we're very glad to hold this session for you guys, talking about the things and the good news that became official as of January 2025. So we will be discussing a couple of things, understanding how artificial intelligence will be now part of the environment for Google Workspace specifically. What are a couple of things we can do, a few things we need to know before we actually get started with artificial intelligence. Please feel free to share your questions. Just make sure you don't do it through the chat because that's unorganized and there's no way we can follow up on that conversation. So please, if you have questions, feel free to send as many as you wish. Just make sure you use the Q&A section for that. At the bottom right corner of your screen, look for the button with the triangle, the square, and the circle. That's called Activities. And if you click on that button, on the right-hand side of the screen, it will display a menu for you. And more or less the fourth option from top to bottom, it's the one that's called Q&A. That will be the proper way for you to submit your questions. We will not be answering those immediately, as there's a lot of information we need to cover, but we will leave all your questions until the end, and then we will be actually answering all those questions that you guys have been sending. As a reminder, the session is being recorded as well. So, of course, you will be receiving the link for the video. So you can watch this information over and over if you need to review some information of what we discussed, or you can even share with people that wasn't able to join today. So if we're ready, Karel, we can go ahead and get started.
Yes, please, Mario.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. So to get started, first of all, I'd like to start with the big news. As you knew, in the past, Google Workspace had the opportunity for me to get an additional license for Gemini for each of my users with an extra cost that I had to pay per user. I was not forced to buy a license for every single person in the company, so I can make the decision to choose how many licenses I needed. But as of now, on January 2025, Google launched an official news that was actually that Gemini will not be having an additional cost for you. Instead, as long as you have a Google Workspace license with you, basically you already have Gemini. There will be different levels. There will be differences in functionality. That's what we will be discussing today. And of course, we will be also talking about a few things that it's important that you guys know. So the big news are that basically now, gradually, because they make a rollover, so it's not something that happens immediately. Some of you may have a little bit of delay on that one. But as of March, the project of launching this new way of Gemini should be over. So pretty much we're saying that there's another invite that was sent in Spanish. So probably if you join to the wrong link, because it's happening simultaneously.
Let me, Mario. Excuse us all. Let me share with you the link with the webinar in Spanish here in the chat. I will do that so you can go there. Puedes ir al chat al webinar de español. Te voy a pasar el link en este momento. Thank you, Mario. Go on.
Okay. So as I was telling you, the importance here that we need to understand from the very beginning is that now is not really something that I have to pay extra. I cannot choose who will have artificial intelligence in my domain. Now the idea is that everyone can actually have it. The only difference is that if you have a Google Workspace business license, regardless if it's a starter, standard, or plus, as long as they are business, then you do not have the power to choose whether or not you want to use Gemini. I mean, once it's launched and activated, everyone in your domain will have it. The difference, if you have a Google Workspace enterprise account, regardless if it's a starter or standard, then you do have the power to choose from the administrative console whether or not you would like to activate Gemini for your domain. So that will be main differences between enterprise and business licenses. And of course, we will be discussing some other differences as we go through the session, but that's important to mention from the very beginning. So let's go ahead and get started here. So one of the main things that will concern everyone once we start working with generative AI, it's what will happen with safety, privacy, security. Because of course we know that nowadays there are thousands of different of artificial intelligence everywhere. But at the end of the day, it's very important you understand that whenever you're using a tool that's free of charge, then that will be a deep learning type of artificial intelligence. What does that mean? When you say deep learning, it means that it actually learns from you. It learns from whatever you're telling them, from whatever interaction you're having with artificial intelligence. The model is actually learning from that. And pretty much it happens to most of users that due to lack of knowledge, they don't pay attention to the small caps. They don't really read the terms and conditions. They just agree to everything because it's free and I can start using it. So what they don't really know is that behind the scene, what's really happening is that this deep learning model, it's making all your information out of public domain. So that's why it's very important that you guys are very careful whenever employees in your company start taking their first steps with artificial intelligence. I mean, there are many different options available there, and a lot of people is desperate, a lot of people is anxious because they want to try it. So as I said, due to lack of knowledge, sometimes they just grab the first one they see, they start using it, and they don't know the risk. They don't understand that what's happening is that if they are giving information that could be sensitive information, confidential information from the company, pretty much the model is learning from everything and it's making all that information out of public domain. So that could get you in troubles, of course. That's why, for example, in this meeting, before we started, we receive a request for note taker, because right now a lot of people is using note takers. So we received a request for a note taker that wanted to join, and we rejected that. Internally in eSource Capital, we have a policy that we do not allow note takers to be part of our meetings. And the reason why, it's because those are free. You're not paying any. So it means that those are deep learning models, which means that if we allow them to go into the meeting, not only they don't ask for permission to the rest of the people if they agree for them to be joining the meeting, but in addition to that, if you speak, it's recording whatever you say. If you share something on your screen, they are recording that as well. So at the end of the day, it's nice, and we understand that the reason why we use it is because we get a summary on what happened in the meeting, so we can share that summary with others. But what really happened to get to that summary? Where that information is going? How it's this artificial intelligence analyzing your information in order to get to that summary? So that's what a lot of people don't know. And that's the reason why we recommend that you need to be very careful. So this is when Gemini tells you our story, it's totally different. Because in our case, Gemini, it's part of your Google Workspace license that you already have, that you already pay. So that means that we offer you, as part of the same contract you had before, the same security, the same privacy, and the same safety that Google will have as a priority number one. So that's what we're seeing on the screen right now. Instead of using a free of charge model, you're using Gemini in your domain at a company level, which means that your data is your data. And what does that really mean? It means that whatever you're doing with Gemini belongs to you. It's not training the model. The model is not learning from that information. And of course, as it says here, your privacy is protected. Why? Because all your information, all your data stays within Google Workspace domain. So at the end of the day, the information belongs to you. Can other users inside my company see what I'm doing with Gemini? The answer is no, because privacy, it's at an individual level. So it means that basically whatever you're doing, it's only for you. If other person in the company is doing something else with Gemini, you cannot have access to what they're doing. They cannot have access to what you're doing. It's at a private level, at individual person. So it's very important that we all know and we understand that this is really a game changer when it comes to security. Because as I said, this is not something that we're just saying with words. This is something that's at a contract level. So that's why we can tell you for sure that this is a guarantee from Google. Your content will not be used for ad targeting. This is a lot of people is concerned about that as well. So if I'm interacting with Gemini, if I'm asking things, if I'm doing material, Will that be targeting my ads that I see now online? Not at all. Why? Because your information is private. Your data is not used by any other client. Of course, this is 100% guarantee. The existing protection to your data, it's automatically applied. What does that mean? This is really good news for the IT department, because usually they are worried, saying like, okay, so I've been working in the company for 10 years. I've been creating different rules, different policies, blocking things just to make sure that we comply with our internal policies, or if we have a specific certification, so we can comply with that. And they are really concerned once they know that now Gemini is coming on. So they say, okay, do I need to start all over again with blocking, restricting, limiting, creating rules? No, the answer is no. Why? Because Gemini will be added to your existing Google Workspace environment, and whatever restriction, block, limitation, whatever you created before will be applied automatically. So that means that they don't have to worry about doing all over again. And also, as you can see here, it says that all my interactions with Gemini will stay within your organization. So at the end, the information will not train the model, which means that in here, I can be 100% safe. And I do have the power to say, I want to share confidential information, maybe financial reports, maybe databases with names of my customers, with their personal information, such as address, phone number, whatever. Because in here, that information will not be trained in the model. It will be just for the purpose of generating content. And that's the reason why Gemini, it's a different model. Instead of being a deep learning model, it's a generative AI. That's how they call it. And the reason why it's called generative, it's because literally what it does is generates content for you based on context, based on information, based on details, and based on your specific requests. Also important to mention, Gemini for Google Workspace is the first enterprise-ready certified artificial intelligence assistant. This is really good news, because if your company already holds any type of certification, all regulations and certifications in the world, Gemini complies with all of them already. If you're worried about security, Gemini complies with SOC 1, 2, and 3. If you have an ISO certification, Gemini complies with ISO certifications as well. So whatever certification listed there on the right-hand side of the screen, it's what Gemini already includes. So you don't have to worry about that, right? So those are really good news. Now, moving forward, a couple of things we need to understand how we're going to transform once we start working with Gemini. Of course, we will be saving a lot of time. If in the past we were taking 2, 3, 4 days just to create a report, just to start with a new campaign, just to ask for a follow-up on something, then now we're saving a lot of time, because whenever you make the request using a prompt with Gemini, all that information will be available there really quick. And you can make the simple math. Instead of spending 4 hours, now I'm just spending 30 minutes. So how many hours I'm saving, and do a simple math times how much money you will be saving. You can have that number really easy with you. The quality improvement. Now you have the power that if you're in the legal department, for example, and you start writing down contracts, but maybe you want to improve the quality of those contracts, or there are a couple of things that you would like to modify, but you don't find the right words. Well, now you have more quality, because whenever you give a prompt to Gemini, all that information will be there available for you. Very easy. It will inspire your creativity, of course. The reason why, yeah, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but sometimes we say that we have like a personal touch. Whenever I'm doing something, people knows that this is something I did because I use similar words, or I have like a specific way of doing things that they already know that Mario did it. Okay. But sometimes that could be beneficial, but sometimes that could be playing against us, because sometimes we just don't know what else to do. We don't have like fresh ideas. We don't know where else to go, because we just keep inside what we already know, like the comfort zone, as they call it, right? So in here, it will inspire your creativity, because basically we'll give you other ideas. We'll give you the power to go outside to the internet and give you other information, give you more details. So of course, it's important that in here, things will change a lot with the information that you will have available with Gemini. It will be more creativity, as I said. And sometimes we can say as well that not only creativity, but also whenever you need to make a decision, you will be informed in a better way because you have an easy way to investigate, an easy way to create a summary about something that's important to you. Or if you say, before I create this campaign, there is something I need to read, but it's like 400 pages and I just have one day to do so. So instead, I can ask Gemini to summarize that. And instead of having 400 pages, now I can have 1 or 2 pages and have all the same information there. So whenever I make the decision, I will be informed. I will have all the details. I will have all the information. And of course, as it says at the bottom of the screen, while keeping your data private and secure. This is very important for you to keep in mind. So as I said, Gemini for Google Workspace inside your business account will not be training the model, and the information will not be used for anything else except generating whatever you're requesting, right? Now, moving forward, it's important we understand the differences of levels and what I will have access depending on what type of license I'm having right now in my company. So for example, if you have a business or an enterprise starter account, those two type of licenses will give you access to what they call Gemini app, which is pretty much a website that you go through gemini.google.com. This is a conversational chat. You can ask things to be completed, but in this case, it will be a light version of the software. So for example, data analysis is not available there because this is like a lighter version of Gemini. So if you provide data, there's no way Gemini can actually analyze that information. And also, when it goes to Google Workspace apps, it will be available in Gmail. What will it do in Gmail? We'll see a few examples later on this session, but just to give you an idea, it will help you write. So if you know what you want to say, if you know details, if you know all that information, but you don't know how to put it in words and how to organize those ideas into a very nice email so you can send it to someone else, basically Gmail has integrated Gemini version there. So you can just provide your ideas, give context, all the details and all the information you want to share, and it will create an email for you to send. It will also help you responding emails. So if you receive something and you want to reply, but you don't know how to say it, same thing, you just provide a description there and it will just help you writing a response for that. So those are the options available if you have, again, business or enterprise accounts at a starter level. Those are the only two things that you will have available. So Gemini website, which is called Gemini app, no data analysis on that one because it's a lighter version. And if you have Gmail, it will be integrated there as well. Now, moving forward, what does it include if I have a business standard or a business plus account, or even enterprise at standard level as well, or plus? Well, in those specific scenarios, it will be Gemini Advanced. This is a different version. This one is a website, the same address. So it's gemini.google.com. It's a conversational chat, but you have more power in that tool because in here you do have the power to provide data. For example, I can upload or I can just share a spreadsheet from Google Sheets, and I can say, okay, analyze this information and give me an insight, or create charts, or I need you to create a few tables or pivot tables out of that information. Then they do have the power to do that. You can create images. On both Gemini app and Gemini Advanced will allow you to create images. The only difference is that Gemini app, will not be able to create images that include people. And on the other hand, on Gemini Advanced, you do have the power to create images that include people. So that will be another difference once creating images. Then the rest is very similar. You can summarize, you can create, you can write, you can do many things. We'll see a few examples later on. And the other difference here is that once we go into Google Workspace environment, it is not available not only in Gmail, but this time it's also available in Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Inside Drive, and also in Google Meet. So as you can see, there's a big difference between having business or enterprise starter versus having standard plus or standard plus as well for enterprise level. So those are the main differences. And as I said at the beginning, If you have enterprise licenses, you do have the power to choose as an administrator if you want to keep Gemini activated for all your employees, or if you just want to restrict it to a few people or not at all, whatever you want to do, you have the power to do so only on enterprise licenses. If you have business licenses, then Gemini will be activated and there's no way you can turn it off. That's how it works. Now, moving forward, well, this is more of what we discussed already. A couple of differences there between the Gemini app version and the Gemini Advanced. Um, Also included, as of now, it's Notebook LM. This is a very powerful tool that's now available and that will be included as well with this new launch of Gemini. The difference will be that if you have a starter account, again, either business or enterprise at a starter level, you have Notebook LM, just like that. And if you have business or enterprise standard or plus, then you have Notebook Plus as well. What will be the differences? The amount of sources that you can use and different things that we'll be discussing. But just to give you an idea, Notebook, because sometimes a lot of people is asking me, okay, Mario, but what should I use? I mean, what's the best? Should I use Gemini or should I use Notebook? Well, it's not a versus thing. Actually, Notebook works based on Gemini. So it's not that Notebook is better than Gemini or Gemini is better than Notebook. It really depends on the scenario on what you want to do. The reason why they call it Notebook, it's because literally it works as a notebook, as if you're taking notes, as if you are just trying to investigate in a specific subject and different things that you want to do. So Notebook works that you can just start uploading your sources of information. The idea with the Notebook is that instead of the way it works Gemini, that you can ask a question and Gemini can go and look online on documents and everywhere, the difference with Notebook is that whenever you ask a question, it will not go outside and it will only use the information you provided as sources. So you can upload PDFs, you can upload plain text documents, you can upload MP3 audios, for example. Those are the type of files that we'll be accepting from your computer. If you go to Drive, then it will allow you to share documents and slide presentations. Those will be valid as well. And you can also provide YouTube videos, for example, or if you just have plain text somewhere and you just want to copy that text and put it here, that will be also acceptable. So at the end, you provide those sources of information. If you have the standard version, the Notebook LM, you can upload up to 50 sources of information. And if you go with the Notebook LM Plus, then you can upload up to 300 sources. So that's one of the differences. And those sources will be shown on the left side of the screen. In the center of the screen, what you can do is through chat conversation, you can ask information about those sources you provided there. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there are a couple of different things. For example, you have the power to use artificial intelligence to create a podcast episode, which means that voices generated with artificial intelligence of people that doesn't exist. You have a male voice and a female voice. And what they'll do is that they'll create a whole podcast episode. Well, they would be discussing information about the sources you provided. So if you want to find an easier and faster way to learn about those sources of information you provided sooner, then basically all you have to do is generate the podcast episode. You can download the audio, you can share the audio with others if you prefer, and they actually start interacting, just sharing information, discussing everything you provided as part of the sources. And the new option that they just launched a few days ago is the power that you can actually interact with the podcast, which means that there's a button that you can click that will enable your microphone, and actually you can start talking with them as well, and they can answer questions for you in the same podcast episode if you prefer. So of course we'll see a few examples and we will be going deeper into those once we go through the session, but just wanted to give you information about how that works. 5 things you need to know as you get started with Gemini. First, this is artificial intelligence that's based on a machine learning model, which means there's a free version of Gemini. For example, if you have a Gmail account, that's for free. You're not paying anything. There's a Gemini version available there. But instead of being generative AI, as the one you're using for your business account, the one that's for free, it's a deep learning model. So that's how Gemini is being fed with information. That's how Gemini is learning with information out there based on those free models that are machine learning models, pretty much. You can use artificial intelligence to assist you and inspire. The idea here is that you keep in mind that even though this is a very powerful tool, it's only your personal assistant. It's not here to replace you. It's not here to replace anyone in the company. The idea is that you use it responsibly. Remember, of course, we need to keep in mind that we are responsible for whatever happens with this tool. So I cannot blame on artificial intelligence. For example, if I'm sending a letter to my boss and I ask Gemini to create this letter, I cannot just send the letter without even reading it. I know that Gemini will be very powerful and will give me a very nice letter with the information I need, but still, it is my responsibility to read it, to make sure the information there it's okay, to customize that if I have to, by either adding information or removing information that does not work for me. But I still need to keep in mind that by the time I choose to send that letter to my boss, it's as if I wrote the letter, because it will be my responsibility. Whatever it says, it's my responsibility. So it's there to assist you and to inspire you, but at the end of the day, it's still your responsibility to check everything you're doing with artificial intelligence. It's also important that you know that AI can and will make mistakes, because remember, this is still in the process of learning. They are launching new models. For example, there's a whole roadmap of new features and new things coming for 2025. 2024 was actually full of new enhancements and new things that we saw going on with artificial intelligence, and that's not stopping this year. It will actually continue. So it's important we understand that whenever there's a new feature, whenever there's something coming that's just brand new, can make mistakes, and that's the important on number 4. Critically evaluate responses that it's giving you, because as we were talking earlier, it's still your responsibility. Whatever happens there, it's your responsibility. And keep your information private. This is something important for you to know as well. Once you're working with your business account, you don't have to worry about it, because remember, as we have been telling you, this is generative AI, which means your data is your data. Everything we discussed in a few slides ago, that at the end of the day, the model is not really learning from you at a business level. So you can just feel free that it will be keeping your information private. Now, how to write a great prompt. This is very, very important for you to know, because prompting is the key on taking advantage of this powerful tool of artificial intelligence. Sometimes we've heard users complaining because artificial intelligence is not really throwing any good material for them. So you need to understand that we have been hearing this phrase, I will say, since we were little kids, to keep it simple. Keep it simple, and they continue saying keep it simple, keep it simple. The less information, the better. But in here, you need to understand that rules will change with artificial intelligence, specifically with generative AI. When you start prompting, it's important that you give a lot of information. The more details, the more context, the more specific you are, the better result you get. When Google officially launched Gemini, they allow like 6 months for people to start playing with it, using it. And after 6 months being in production, they just run a study just to see how people was doing with prompting. And they found out that actually people was using 8 words or less to build their prompts. So Google was really disappointed, because they said, we made a big effort to allow users to have up to 1 million words in the prompt. So we really made a big effort to make that happen. And it's like a shame that we just gave you the power to write down up to 1 million words in a prompt, and now we just found out that you're just giving them 8 words or less. So whenever you're complaining because you got the wrong result, it's because you gave the wrong prompt as well. So that's why Google started launching like different ads and different things that they were doing online, just to let people know that it was very important for people to actually learn the right way of prompting. So they were saying like, what are the things that you need to include? And they just got to the point where 5 things will be there every time you need to create a successful prompt. So for example, number 1, the action. I need to tell Gemini what's the action I want them to complete. Write, summarize, analyze, create, and list. I don't know, many different things that they can do, but you need to describe the action specifically. Then it's important you say, what would you want them to do? Okay, so if you say write a letter for my boss, write an email for my customers, write. So you need to say, besides the action, what do you want them to write or to analyze or to summarize or to do whatever you're asking them to do. Then, of course, it's important you say the target audience. This is a letter that I'll be sending to my boss. He is the training department manager. He's located in this country. The more details you provide about that person, the better, because then he will understand if there are specific words that they can use or specific words that they need to avoid. So that's the reason why it's important you provide that information to Gemini. In addition to that, it's always nice if you say the type of result you're looking for. I want that in the form of a chart. I want that in a table, or I want that as an image, or I want that as a letter, as an email. So if you provide the format or the way you want that answer to happen, it's always better. Also, the tone. So you can say, okay, use a friendly tone, or use a formal tone, or use technical words, because this is being sent to experts in this matter, for example. So you can also provide that information. And you can also say, how should Gemini act? Because you can ask Gemini to become whatever you want. So for example, I can say, act as I don't know, as an engineer, and give me the steps to complete this process, or many different things that you can do just to give them a specific information as to how they need to act. Or even if you want to describe yourself because you want Gemini to be in your shoes, you can also do that as well. So I'm a trainer for Google Workspace. I work in Eastern Capital, and I want to share this information with my audience. So those are the type of things you're supposed to include in your prompt. Now, after giving all that information, and after Google launching these ads and different things, encouraging people to improve the prompting they were doing, they ran the study again, and they had good news, because they noticed that instead of using 8 words or less, now at least people is using 22 words or more. So it means that the average improved a lot. And now people is really getting to understand that the more information they provide during the prompt, the better results they'll get, right? So after understanding this, we're going to go through a couple of examples so you can see how the tool works specifically. So for that, we're going to switch here. I'm just going to documents, for example. So as you notice, let me just stop sharing this. Let me go here. Okay, so for example, if I open a blank document, right? A lot of people is usually concerned about this, because once we go into a blank document, sometimes I could be just blank as well, and I don't know where to start or how to say it, and a lot of things that I need to do. Okay, so I have the option here to help me write, the button here. So I can click on it, and it will open this text box. This is for me to enter my prompt. So this is where I need to tell Gemini specifically what I'm expecting here to happen. One of the examples could be, even though this is a document, and probably if you guys think about sending an email, this is the last place you'll think about it, because you say, okay, if I want to send an email, I'll just go into Gmail. But what if you want to try something here on a document? So let me show you a prompt that I had already created. So in here, as you can see, I'm just saying, write an email to notify all employees in my company that we recently hired a new CTO. His name is Karel Munoz. He used to be the CTO in Google, and now he's sharing all his experience with us. He has been recently awarded as the most innovative CTO in the world at the Google Next Event 2023. So those are like the things I would like to emphasize on my email. And I say, to close my prompt, I say, okay, use enthusiastic and emotional tone, because we're very happy on having Karel here. So even though this is a document and I'm asking them to write an email, when I click on create, the important thing here to understand is that Gemini will act as an expert on documents. And if I didn't know that I have the power to create an email using a document, Gemini is actually letting me know, okay, Mario, in case you didn't know, here we can use what we call the Smart Canvas. And using Smart Canvas, you can actually create an email draft. And you can save that in a document if you prefer. So that's why it's giving me the fields for me to add the recipients. If I want to copy someone, blind copy, add the subject, and it's giving me the email that I requested. So dear Easter's Capital team, and just sharing all the information here about Karel, about him being hired, his experience, about being recently awarded. So as you notice, they built the whole email for me. What else can I do? Well, if I forgot something, I just have a text box here at the bottom. So I can say like, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that it's important that you say this in the email. And I can just send it again. And it will use the same context that I provided earlier, but it will just add whatever detail I forgot. In addition to that, I also have the button to refine. What refine will do? Well, I can shorten, I can elaborate more, I can add more formal tone or more casual tone, I can bulletize the information as well, I can summarize, or if I didn't like this version, I can simply retry, and it will give me a whole new version of it. Once I'm happy with this one, I still have the power to say thumbs up and thumbs down, depending on whatever the result. And once I'm ready to use it, I can just click on insert. And as you notice, now I have a new email that I can go ahead and send. Of course, remember what we have been telling you from the very beginning. It's still your responsibility to read the whole email, make sure that it says the proper words, that the information conveyed there, it's actually what you wanted to convey. You need to replace here your name, for example. So I can say thank you, and I can replace this with Mario Gomez. I can add a subject. So for example, I can say something like great news, for example. And then the smart chips here, I can replace them with real people. So I can say, okay, so I want to send this to Ismael. I want to copy maybe my coworker, Sophie, for example, and then I can blind copy Karel. So once I'm ready, all I have to do is click on the M on the left side of the screen. And as you notice, everything I had in a document will be now transferred to Gmail, and it's ready for me to send this message. So not only Gemini helped me creating this email that I wanted to share, but it's also giving me the power to keep it as a document so I can use it as a template if I want to continue using that email later on. I can just replace recipients, I can replace words or names or things that I would like to replace, but at least I have an email now. So I'm ready to send this email, and once I send it, as I said, I can still keep my document as a template here. So it's a very nice option available. So Gemini will have the power to actually allow me to do that. Now let's go into another new document. One of the other options available here, if you notice earlier, it's that besides giving me the button to help me write, it's also giving me another option here that says create a document. This is even more powerful because it's not just plain text. This one will even generate images and will generate the whole template, the whole format of whatever you want to share. So for example, if I click on create a document, I want you to notice that it's giving me here a few examples. I can just describe the document I want to create here, include at if I want to tag someone, or if I want to tag files inside my drive that can be used towards this file that I'm about to create. And it's giving me a couple of examples here on what I can do. So planning document to launch new strawberry and this, a newsletter that highlights travel destinations, template for a 15-minute daily stand-up meeting. So what if I want to use this one, for example? Maybe I'm having a meeting every day with my team, as it says here, a 15-minute daily meeting, standing up. So if I want to use this one, I can actually take advantage of the example, click on it. It will generate the prompt. So this is like the type of prompt that I should be using to create this document. So template for 15-minute daily stand-up meeting with 8 people, include a table with a space for individuals to leave their updates, style the document with visually engaging, inspiring, and motivating. Use elements like color, imagery, and positive language to get everyone energized and excited to start the day. Okay, so I just click on create and let's see what happens. So in this case, it's not just creating a plain text document, but it's creating a whole template for me. This is another option available with artificial intelligence. I'm just using one of the examples they had there. But remember, you can also write down your prompt on the text box, and it will just create an image. The whole template, including images, if that's necessary. So let's just give it a few more seconds and see what I can get here. And of course, this is a document that belongs to me that will be saved in my drive and that I can continue using. So as you can see, daily stand-up meeting created an image based on artificial intelligence. So this was generated with artificial intelligence, which means that the image is free of copyrights. And that gives me the power to use that image towards whatever I want. Even if I want to use this image externally or even to use that in an advertisement, I can feel free to use that as well because the image belongs to me. It's free of copyrights, as I said. So it's giving me here salutation at the beginning, and then just giving me a chart for people to include their updates. And at the end, stand-up guidelines, creating another image here for a team. So as you notice, they created the whole template for me if I wanted to create that as well. So that very easy to do. And this is just a very simple example of things that you can do here with the document and having Gemini integrated here as well. Now, let's say if I go into Google Sheets, for example, I do have the power here to say, help me organize here on the top left corner of the screen. So once I click on it, I will get this on the right-hand side of the screen. So it's like the side panel. And here I have the text box where I can enter my prompt. If I don't know what to say, as you notice, it's giving me a couple of prompts there as examples. They are just switching randomly just to give me a few ideas on things that I can do. So what if I come here and I say something like, okay, maybe I'm just creating a marketing campaign. I have 6 months to complete this. I'm launching this specific product, or I have this specific amount of money to spend on this marketing campaign. So I can describe it here in a prompt. So for example, create a marketing campaign and budget table for a new product we're launching, include a timeline of 6 months from now. Okay. I can add more details. I can add more information. Of course, there are a lot of things or different information that I can include on my prompt to make it better. Remember what we have been telling you, the more information, the more context, the more details, the better result you'll get. But at least just to show you an example here, I can use this simple prompt. And instead of working with a blank spreadsheet, in just a matter of seconds, I can have something that will allow me to work on my planning. Usually planning, it's complicated because planning will take me at least a couple of days, but see what we can get now. So very easy. I don't have to start from scratch because now I can have a table that will give me different columns: the date, the campaign type, the channel, the target audience, messaging, KPIs, my budget, the status of the activity, and additional notes. If I'm happy with the results, I can give a thumbs up. And of course, important, make sure you click on insert so you can have that table available in your spreadsheet. And now the table belongs to you. You can add more columns, you can add more rows. Of course, remember what we have been telling you. It's very important you read the information carefully, that you customize whatever you think it's necessary to customize. So a lot of things you can do with the spreadsheets, but as you notice, you don't have to start from scratch again. And not only that, you also have the power to click on the right panel here. And with this right panel, you can also create charts, pivot tables, formulas. So if I'm not really good at formulas, I can just say, okay, so using this information on this column and this information on this other column, I'm trying to get the top 5 sellers of the year, making sure you only consider sales that we completed in the past 6 months or in the past Q or the past half, whatever you want to say. And if you're not an expert creating formulas, you don't have to worry about that anymore, because with this right panel, you can just create formulas. They will be applied already as an example on the right panel, and still you can just drag them and put them wherever you need them. And one of the things I can tell you that I really like about this is that it will give you the power to combine formulas. Sometimes the average user for Google Sheets, usually just creating a simple formula, sometimes they have a lot of troubles. They get a lot of errors, and it's really taking a lot of time from them. So it's time-consuming activities. Instead of that, you can just describe the formula, and instead of just creating a simple formula, most of the times, if you describe like a very complex scenario, it will combine different formulas to get to the answer you're asking for. So that's another example here on things that will help you. But as you notice, different things, you can use the help me organize, you can use the right panel, but you have a lot of power here with artificial intelligence. If you prefer, we can go into Gemini website, so you can see that as well. So I can go just by adding gemini.google.com in one of my tabs for my web browser. Automatically, it identifies me because I already logged in with my username and password. As you noted, it's welcoming me here, Gemini for Acer's Capital. So I know this is inside my domain, and tells me here that I can start entering my prompt. I have the button that will allow me to add an image from my computer. I can also add files from my computer, or I can share files from my drive. In addition to that, if I don't even want to write down typing with my keyboard, I can also use the microphone as well and start creating my prompt that way. Sometimes a lot of people prefers using this one because they say, you know what, if I start typing with my keyboard, maybe not all ideas will come to my mind. But if I start talking, then I can talk a lot and I can just say everything I'm thinking and everything I want. So sometimes it's even easier if you just open your microphone, describe your prompt. Remember, the more details, the more context, the more information you provide, the better result you'll get. Now, every time you have an interaction with Gemini, it will be displayed here in recent on the left side of the screen. If there's an interaction that you really love the result you got and you want to save it, you can just click on the three dots, pin it, and besides pinning it, you can also rename it. And as you notice, you can even add an emoji, such as the examples I have here. So it will be even easier to identify those interactions you had. So for example, a few days ago, I'm very fan of Lord of the Rings books, movies, everything related to it. So I was just thinking, since I can create images by giving them a prompt, my prompt will be create images of the main characters for Lord of the Rings, but as if they were dogs, as if they were never people or any other race they had. Instead, I want them all to be dogs. And I saved that one because I really love what I got. So I can click on it and it will reply the whole interaction I had. So this was my prompt, and this is the result I got. So they were giving me images for Frodo Baggins, for Gandalf, for Legolas, and Gimli. As you notice, all of them as dogs. Can I use this image? Of course, the image belongs to me. As I said, I can download it in high resolution, and this image is free of copyrights, which will give me the power to use the image wherever I want. Even if I want to create a marketing campaign or an ad campaign, I can use it because the image belongs to me. The way Google sees is that the image didn't exist until I created the prompt. So even though they generated the image with artificial intelligence, it was based on my description in the prompt. So that means that the image at the end of the day belongs to me. And that's why they say you can use it towards whatever you prefer, right? Now, not only creating images, it's an option available here. You can also say something like, okay, what if I have, for example, a file here? Let me show you this one. So what if I have a file like this? It will be pretty much what we call raw data, right? So this is a Google Sheets file that contains information about sales. So it tells me the fiscal ID, the executive's name, the movement date, the type of product that they were selling, the amount, and the branch, right? So this is the information I have on this, but it's raw. I mean, there are no charts, there are no tables, pivot tables, no formulas, nothing. It was just plain information here. Okay, so what if I want to use that information towards an analysis, and I just want to have that information easier with me? Okay, so since I have that in my drive, I can just click on the plus symbol. I can go into my recent file, for example, And I can say, okay, so use this bank data information that I'm sharing with you. And what else do I need to do now? Okay, I just need to give them the prompt. I just need to say exactly what I want, how I want that information. So let's say I can say something like, let me just paste here because I already had a prompt. So I can say something like analyze sales and marketing data from the last 6 months. So even though the file has more than 6 months, I'm just asking to emphasize in the last 6 months. Identify patterns and trends. And I want you to look at what I'm saying here. I want you to suggest 3 concrete strategies to increase my revenue in the next quarter. And also taking advantage that Gemini is an expert and that they can analyze information and give me a lot of things. I'm also asking to create charts with the most important aspects. So I'm giving them the free will to choose whatever they consider important aspect and give me a chart related to that information. So I can submit that one here, and they will start analyzing that information for me. Now, what I want you to notice is that on the right side of the screen, it says show code. The reason why it says that, because I want you to notice that when I share the file, I didn't give details as to how many columns I have and what type of information they can find in those columns. I just shared the file and asked for an analysis to happen. I was asking about specific details that I wanted to see, but because I didn't provide details, then basically, first of all, what they had to do is create a Python code for people that's related to development and programming. They know that there's a code that's called Python. So they had to run a query using Python code just to identify the columns and the information there. So in case I'm interested in understanding what they did with my file or what they did to my file, basically I can just click on show code and it will show me the whole Python code, the whole query they created just to understand my file and grabbing that information there. If I'm not interested, then I'm just hide the code and let's see the result. So remember, I asked for a couple of charts to be created, but I just I gave Gemini the free will to choose the important aspects. So the total amount by month and type, they created the chart for me. This chart, I can see the table to understand where this information is coming from. I can also customize the chart as well. I can just click here and say, instead of lines, maybe I prefer vertical bar, for example. That could be an option. And if I need this chart, I can just copy. Let's say maybe I want that to be back in my document. So I can put it here at the bottom, for example. Remember, this is compatible within Google Workspace. So as you can see, I can have the chart here. I can have the chart in a slide presentation. I can have in a document, in spreadsheets, wherever you need it. I can continue scrolling down and the information will be there. So it's giving me all the details, all the information, everything I requested, the strategies, all the information that I requested. Remember, the more specific you are, the more details you provide, the more context you give, the easier it will be for you to get the result you're looking for. But at least I want you to notice that they have the power to analyze this information and give you everything you're asking here. So those are the type of things you can do. And then you can feel free to say something. I mean, it's not always really necessary for me to provide files. I can only provide prompts if I'm asking to generate something, to investigate. So maybe I want to know about policies, about restrictions, about whatever. So I can just be very specific with my prompt, send that, and I can get different things to happen here. Not only that, important thing to know as well, this is only for business and enterprise standard and plus. This is not available for starter, because remember we said that starters, they don't have the power to analyze data, as the example we just did. They can create images, not including people. Remember that we said that's also available only for standard and plus. And one of the other things that I would like to point out that's not available for starters, it's just for the rest, it's the gems. This is a very nice tool that's here available in Gemini, because a lot of people was telling me, okay, Mario, but if you said at the beginning that we are not training the model with our interactions, we are not really providing details, the model is not really learning from me. So what if I want to do opposite? What if I want Gemini to learn from what I'm doing, to give me the possibility to train the model, to let him know exactly what type of answer I'm looking for, the format, the words, the whatever. Okay, so that's why they launch gems. So gems, let me delete this one here. Gems will give you a set of pre-established gems that were created by Gemini. So you can take advantage of those as well, like the brainstormer, the career guide, the coding partner, the copy creator. So once you click on them, it will give you a list of things they can do. For example, the coding partner. So if I'm coding, I'm a developer. So they can check my coding homework. They can help me update my website tracking, build simple apps for my business, or how do I look through a list of items in Python. So as you can see, this coding partner knows everything about coding specifically, and I can just put my prompt here and ask for something, and they will make it happen. Now, those are pre-established gems that were created by Google. But what if I want to train my model in my own way? So I go into the gem manager here at the bottom, and I want you to notice that you have the power to say, I want to create a new gem. So this one, you have the power to actually name it. So you can say like my legal assistant, for example. Let's pretend I'm a lawyer and I work in the company and I get between 80 to 90 contracts a day. And I have to analyze those contracts, find if there are any risk for me or for the other party, suggest any corrections that need to happen in the contract. So many different things that I've been doing, and it's consuming like a lot of time from me. So instead, I can just create a legal assistant here. So I can say something like analyze contracts and give me red flags, for example. Um, Suggest directions, and maybe I'm in California, for example. So I can say something like use updated laws for the state of California as of 2025, for example. You can continue giving more ideas here, more instructions, more information, simple sentences. And the best of all is that once you finish with those simple sentences and just ideas, you can click on this button here at the bottom that will give you the power to use the power of Gemini to rewrite your instructions, but with more structure. So let me show you an example here of what happens when I click on this button here. We'll reuse those three simple sentences and we'll give you a whole structured thing. I want you to notice what happened here. So I'm training the model. What will be your purposes and goals? When it comes to the behavior and rules, when it comes to contract analysis, when it comes to user interactions, when it comes to overall tone. So giving me a lot of information here. Of course, I need to read it. If I agree with this one, I can just keep it. Here at the bottom, I have the power to add files as part of the knowledge on this training. Those files that I'll be adding here could be either files that Gemini will use as a reference. For example, I can say, okay, so I'm giving you a template of a contract. So all contracts should be the same way as this. Or I can add information to use it as a source. So for example, if I have a legal code or if I have the law of the state updated and I have a PDF and I want to upload that here, I can say, okay, so I'm attaching the updated law for this state. So you can use that one writing the contract, for example. And once you're done, all you have to do is click on save. And now you have a new gem that has been trained your own way. And it's ready for you to use it. Legal assistant, the prompt will be shorter now because they already know what they need to do and how they need to do it. And you can just provide additional files if you prefer towards whatever you're doing, an analysis of contracts, for example. And on the three dots here on the left side of the screen, you still have the power to edit. So if after using this for a couple of days, I noticed that there are a couple of things that I need to tune just to make it a fine tuning, I'm sorry, you can come here and update that one, click on update, and you can continue working with the same gem. And you can continue adding as many gems as you wish. So with this one, we're getting to the end of the time we had available for today, but at least you had the option to see what Gemini can do for you, the different options available there. We know that there's a Gemini website. We also noticed that there's a Gemini version integrated in the tools for Google Workspace. And of course, understanding that now it's available for everyone in the company and understanding the differences between having a business or enterprise starter versus business or enterprise at standard or plus level, different things you can have there. I see there were no questions shared through the Q&A, so I'm assuming everything was clear. Remember that the session is being recorded, so of course you guys will be receiving the link to see the video again or share it with other people if you need to. For now, nothing else but thanking you for your time. Thank you for your business. Thank you for being with us. The idea is that you got all the information. Of course, this is not the end of it. I mean, if you want to go deeper, now that you have it available for your companies, you can contact us as soon as possible. And of course, we can help you creating a training plan for you guys, training your employees, because as we said, it's very important that people knows what they're doing, understands the risk of using other tools that may not have the same security and privacy as what Google is offering you, and also giving them the power to start prompting in the right way, because prompting is the key to take advantage of this powerful tool, and just learning all the different tools and different apps that they may have available. It's very important. So, of course, as I said, you can contact us, and we will be more than happy in helping you with creating a training plan or even assisting, because we are sharing other webinars that will be available. So if they want to join, of course, we will be sharing those with you as well. So thank you again for your time. Have a nice day and see you on another session. Can I create a machine learning with GEM with a database? That will be a different story, because Google decided to call Gemini everything. So everything is called Gemini, but there are different levels of Gemini. So there are other services that will be including, for example, Google Cloud Platform Services. There's Gemini there as well. And that Gemini, it's allowing you to actually code it and just develop whatever you need to do. But that will be a whole different story, just to give a quick answer to that question that came there last minute. So thank you again, and see you on another session. Have a good one.